Nations Special Commission in Iraq, which was tasked with performing on-site inspections in Iraq to oversee the disarmament of Iraqi weapons of mass destruction. Originally, they built the inspection process along the lines of the INF Treaty on the notion that the Iraqis would provide a declaration that listed the totality of their WMD, and then the inspectors would go in a very gentlemanly fashion to confirm the declaration was complete, and then to oversee the accounting or the dismemberment, the disarming, dismantlement of these weapons of mass destruction. That's how the INF Treaty worked, with the United States and the Soviets providing declarations, et cetera. Well, the Iraqis lied. They failed to declare entire programs. They failed to declare a biological weapons program. They failed to declare a nuclear weapons program. They underdeclared their chemical weapons capability. They underdeclared their ballistic missile capability. And so now these inspectors had to come up with a new way of doing business. And it was be intelligence driven, because if the Iraqis are hiding capability, then we have to find it. The Iraqis aren't going to give it to us. We have to search it out. So I was brought in to create an intelligence unit within the United Nations that would receive information from other nations, organize inspections, and then go off into Iraq and searching for this hidden capability. And for 7 years, I did that job. And I went into Iraq more than 40 times. 14 of them as a chief weapons inspector, meaning I was in charge of the team. I was the lead liaison for foreign intelligence. I worked with the CIA, British MI6, Israeli intelligence, German intelligence, Jordanian intelligence, and we did the job. I mean, it was a very difficult job. We were confronted the whole time with the fact that the United States did not want us to succeed. They were looking at the inspection process as a means of undermining Saddam Hussein, as opposed to actually disarming Iraq. Because see, if you disarmed Iraq, sanctions would be lifted. If sanctions were lifted, then Saddam could get back to the business of being Saddam. The U.S. wanted to keep sanctions in place, which meant that the more I tried to succeed at my job, the more I became a threat to the United States.
Wow.
And so in August of 1998, I resigned my position as with the United Nations Special Commission, and I started speaking out against U.S. policy. And since that time, I guess I've gained a reputation for being a contrarian when it comes to U.S. policy in the Middle East and U.S. arms control policy, et cetera. Not because I hate my country. I love my country. I joined the Marine Corps and I was willing to die for my country. And I've served my country honorably. But, you know, a citizen's job isn't to sit back and let the government do anything they want to. The citizen's job is to empower themselves with knowledge and information and hold their government to account if they're deviating from the norms and values that we claim to embrace as a people. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that I've been speaking out. Now, on the issue of Ukraine, as I mentioned, I used to train to fight the Soviets. And Soviet doctrine is similar to Russian doctrine today. I'm a student of Russian military history. I've worked in the Soviet Union, and I have contacts in the past and continued contacts with the Soviet military, et cetera. So I'm very familiar with Russian doctrine, the Russian military, and things of that nature. So when this conflict started, I felt that I was in a position to accurately assess what was actually going on in the ground in the face of what was an overwhelming amount of politicized information coming from the mainstream media that seeks to tell the narrative from a Ukrainian perspective in a manner that doesn't necessarily reflect the actuality of what's taking place. So I've been speaking out lately about what I believe could be happening on the ground. I need to make it clear that while a lot of people talk about the Russian playbook, I don't have it. So I can't tell you what's in the Russian playbook. I don't think anybody has it. They haven't published a playbook. And when people talk about the intent of Vladimir Putin, I don't have a phone that I can pick up and call Vladimir Putin and ask him what his intent is. And I don't think any of the people who speak of Putin have that either. So there's a lot of people out there proclaiming that they have special insight into the thinking of the Russian leader and into the plans of the Russian military leadership. They don't. I don't either. What I do have is a history of experience about the Russian military that allows me to look at a map to assess information and determine whether or not that is consistent with what I understand the facts to be, or if it deviates to such an extent that maybe we have to question whether or not this information is accurate.
So what do you see going on?
Well, what I see going on right now is a Russian response that is decades in the making. There's a lot of people that say that what Putin has done in Ukraine is a very impetuous, rash act, that it's a gamble, that Putin is gambled. And this creates the notion of a leader who is a risk taker, who's not certain of where he stands, who is confronted with a problem and is seeking to take a shortcut to a solution. No, this is a problem that has been in the making since 1997, when NATO began its process of expanding, allowing former Warsaw Pact nations into the NATO alliance and gradually moving towards the border with Russia. This is a problem that has been ongoing since 1999, when Boris Yeltsin stepped aside and brought in Vladimir Putin as the president of Russia. Boris Yeltsin, of course, ran Russia during the decades of the 90s in the aftermath of the collapse of the Soviet Union, who allowed the United States and other countries to run roughshod over Russian sovereignty, to view Russia as an economic opportunity for carpetbaggers to come in and rob Russia blind, who empowered a class of oligarchs who stole Russia's wealth and made it their own. And the United States was all too happy with Yeltsin. And when Yeltsin stepped aside and brought in Vladimir Putin said, we're no longer playing that game. Russia's a sovereign state. We're going to assert our sovereign control over our own economy, etc. People in the West started viewing him as a threat to